Hi guys, and welcome to the channel, and welcome to an unboxing of a replica that I have wanted for a long time. So no, it is not new to the market, it's not a brand new model, but it is one I've wanted for years and years and years and never got round to actually getting hold of. So I finally got hold of one. Remember guys, if you like the channel, give us a thumbs up, remember to subscribe, and if you want to, by all means go and check out our Patreon. So by all means go and check that out. It's in the link below. So, or in the description below. The link's in the description below, that's what I was trying to say. So let's get on and have a look what's inside this box. Okay, so in typical Toyko Marui fashion, you get a really fancy box, really nice artwork on it and everything. So that's typical, that's Toyko Marui style, so that's all cool. Now, before anyone says, oh, you could have got a D-Boys or a bell, double bell scar and upgrade it for the price of this, yes, you are absolutely right, I could have done that, but I didn't want to. I wanted a Toyko Marui, and that's why I've done this. Yes, the recoil shock isn't as strong as some of the other Toyko Marui models like the M4, but I just love the scar. So I like the Toyko Marui quality, and I like the blowback and the bolt stop and everything. So this was the one I had to go for. So let's get this open and have a look. And like I say, I haven't bought this because it's a new model or anything else, simply because I've wanted one for quite a long time. So here we go. And like I say, in true Toyko Marui fashion, the packaging is really nice. Now, I love the scar, and I know it's a bit of a love-hate setup, and a lot of people prefer the H to the L or the CQC or whatever, but I just love the L model. So, sorry, that's just my preference. So let's have a look what we've got in here. So you've got a little box, and everything flies out. We've got a I bet that's an adjuster. Oh, by the way, excuse my hands, they're not dirty, they're actually stained from messing around with some paint. So this looks like an adjuster for the front sight, but I'm not 100% sure on that. We have got a bag of BBs, and that's all we've got in there in the little box. So we don't need anything more out of there. We've got ourselves our magazine, which is in tan. It's I think it's a 90 round or 110 round magazine, and we've got a manual. So I can't get the manual out at the moment, so we'll get the replica out instead. So it's held in place with a bit of Velcro, and there it is. Right, let's get this out of the way and have a proper look. So this is the manual, and it's a typical Toyko Marui style manual. They don't change a great deal. Most of the information is pretty relevant. It gives you an idea how the bolt stop works, little bits and pieces about the barrel, about the controls. It's all in Japanese. You've got to remember that. These aren't made for export from Japan. They're made for the Japanese market. So what you'll find is you won't find any translation. So you just have to make the most of it. But they're well drawn out. You can see all the information you need to see. You can work it out for yourself, so it really doesn't matter. Everything you need to know is in there. Oh, and a bit about batteries, but that doesn't matter because we use LiQWYD. And there it is, the Scar L. So let's have a look around this thing. So here it is, the Toyko Marui Scar L. I think this is really cool. I love, like I say, I love the Scar L. Now I know it's sometimes described as the Ugg boot and all various other names because of the stock and stuff like that, but it's just such a cool gun, and it feels so narrow. It's just, I don't know, it just feels really ergonomic to me. It feels nice in the hand. And the Toyko Marui one is just, for me, is the top one out there, really. I know you can get the VFC and all the rest of it, but the Toyko Marui wins it for me. So we've got really high quality polymer lowers. We've got a nice aluminium monolithic top. We've got our polymer stock, and we've got our ambidextrous controls. So we've got our mag release, both sides. We've got our fire selector, both sides. Really positive, solid click. And we've got our operational bolt lock, in the sense that when you're finished, I say a bolt lock, it's not really a bolt lock, because it doesn't lock back, but what it does is it stops firing when you reach the end of your rounds, and it just gives you a tiny bit more realism. Now the blowback on these isn't crazy heavy. It's certainly not anything like a gas blowback gun, but it's still good fun. It still gives you that feeling of something going on in your shoulder rather than a sewing machine. So it's a little bit of fun. And of course we've got the magic Toyko Marui hop. Now I don't want to dwell too much on that because an upgraded gun can easily match Toyko Marui hop, but an upgraded Toyko Marui takes it, again, if it's done properly, can take it to another level. So they do have a lot going for them. This is a lovely built gun. It sounds like I'm biased. I'm not really biased. I've not got rose tinted glasses when it comes to these things. Obviously when they come out of the box, the FPS is going to be low. It's going to be around the 300 mark. It's certainly not going to be sky high. And you know, we've got the things like plastic bushings, you know, all the little bits that people tend to go crazy when they're upgrading. Now you can, when you're buying these, have options from some providers that you can put an extra £800-900, maybe even more, into the upgrading of them, and people do it, and why the hell not? You know, if that's what you want to do. Or you can go a little bit at a time and put, you know, choice upgrades in as you go, so long as you match the parts. And when I say match a part, I mean if you're going to stick a big motor in there or a bigger spring, then maybe you want to think about the gears and the bushings and things like that. Or you could just stick to putting a tight bore barrel in, a hop, and we'll go in that route. So, you know, with these things, you haven't got to go crazy and spend a fortune on them in one go. You can just do it like any other AEG. Buy it, play it, see how you get on, and if you fancy upgrading in the future, then go for it. But you can't beat the quality of a Toyko Marui. You really can't. Now, you have got trades on these. As you can see, you got the Mark 16 Mod 0. We've got the caliber of 5.56, and it's got the FN Herstal badging at the top there. So basically in the shooting test, we cut the top of the target off. Now there were a few flyers around here, down here. Some of it was down to my dodgy aim, just not having a stable platform. But generally you'll see that the groupings are pretty good. They're across here and through this section here. So for a standard AEG, straight out the box, you know, is way acceptable, I think. That was pretty decent. And yeah, no complaints there at all. And it just goes to show that Toyko Marui straight out the box, that is, with 0.28 gram BBs, firing really straight, and nice little groupings. Okay, so this part of the video is actually a month later than the first part. And the reason for that is I wanted to give it a run and let you know exactly what I thought about it. You know, so I've got a different mag in there. I've got a P mag, well, not a P mag, the PTS mags, which is essentially a P mag. And I've been out using this thing, and you know what, all in all, really good. But I'll get onto a few things in a minute, because I want to address the elephant in the room with Toyko Maruis. So first things first is the FPS. Straight out the box, everyone who knows anything about Toyko Maruis knows that they're technically underpowered, and I know this is a problem for a lot of people, to spend sort of £500 on an airsoft gun and then find that it's, you know, the reality is it's firing lower than the sight limits, a lot lower. So as you saw from the chrono video, this was firing at about 280 to 300 pretty consistently. You know, it wasn't jumping all over the place. Once it warmed up, it got a few shots, it just stuck around the 300 mark. And that is very typical. That is exactly what you would expect from a Toyko Marui. Now, is that to the detriment of the rifle? In all honesty, it's really not. I mean, yeah, FPS can be higher. It doesn't make any difference to how accurate this is, not a scrap. And the reason for that is the only thing that is affected by the FPS is the speed at which the BB gets there. It goes a little bit slower. Now, I tune all of my AEGs, you guys see it, and you know, that's what I do. So I always try and get the absolute maximum out of the replica. And to do that, obviously I want the perfect FPS. And I'm the same as anyone else. I feel like 280 or 300 is a little bit low for what I want to do with the heavier BBs, because when you're firing downrange, the BBs just go a little bit slower, so it's easy for people to pick them out and move into a matrix style dodge and get out of the way. But at the end of the day, it's really not that critical, and you can easily play with it. And that's exactly what I did, and I was more than happy with the results with it in totally standard form. I was happy to play with it at 300 FPS. You don't need to upgrade it straight away and start trying to squeeze loads of power out of it. You really don't. It is more than capable of working at that. Another thing I've heard a lot of is that putting in stiffer springs will break your gearbox. Well, I guess it depends how stiff a spring you're talking about. But if you stay within UK legal limits of around 350 is the legal limit, 328 a lot of sites say they want you to have, but you're allowed this variance up to 350. So I think pretty much everyone who's dog tries to get it around 340. And in all honesty, to do that, you need a slightly stiffer spring. Now, there's two ways of going about this. If you stick a really stiff spring in there to try and get the power up with standard barrel, maybe you're going to put a bit more stress on the gearbox, and more likely you put your stress on the motor, which makes it harder for it to make a full cycle. I've actually put an M90 spring in this now, and it's turning over absolutely fine, no problem at all. I have had the one Toyko Marui lockup. This is something that happens with Toyko Maruis, and it's something that's well known. It's the single fire lockup. And to clear it, just flick it onto full auto, and it clears the gearbox, clears the jam, if you like. Mine didn't do that. It's only locked up once, and on the one occasion it did lock up, it wouldn't free up on full auto, and I had to strip it down, strip the gearbox and release it. Well, not strip it totally, but take the gearbox out and pull the anti-reversal latch to free it up. That's happened once. With the M90 spring in, it hasn't happened again. So all in all, it's not really a huge issue, but you can overcome that with a Mosfet, because these don't come with Mosfets. So the preferred Mosfet for these is usually the Gate Titan, simply because, and it's not because of all the fancy controls on the Gate Titan, it's simply because it saves you space. The Gate Titan goes inside the gearbox, everything's done inside the gearbox, and there isn't a lot of space to be fitting Gate Warfets or anything else really. Because if I show you where the battery space is, you take the pin out the back here, pop the butt pad off, and this has got more space than most of the Toyko Marui M4s. But if you have a look in the back there, that's where your battery lives. That's your power cable, and there is not a huge amount of space for anything other than your battery in there. So just be aware of that. I wouldn't try and fit a Gate Warfet on it anywhere. There's just maybe you could find some space. I couldn't find any space for one. So I think if you're going to stick a Mosfet in, it'd be a Gate Titan. I actually haven't put anything in it at the moment. I'm just running it as it is. That will be done in the future. So what else can I say about this? The FPS. What did I do to it then? So to bring it to where I wanted it. Obviously, is it better out of the box than a standard AEG? 99% of them, yeah, it is. Target accuracy wise, yes, I feel it is the most AEGs. So it takes something like the AK I did from Cyma lately. You know, this is way more accurate out of the box. What else could I compare it to? The Spectre Arms, all these different AEGs. This will outperform them out of the box as far as accuracy is concerned. Is it? Obviously, the power is lower. So is it worth it? Well, you can buy a lot of those because you buy 3 of them for the price of this. So only you can decide whether it's worth it in that sense. These are expensive for what they are. And they're expensive what they are because they're not exported to different countries. They're a Japanese market only replica. Then a wholesaler buys them and sells them to dealers in the UK. So you get a markup on them. These are going to be more expensive abroad than they are in Japan, I think. I haven't gone out to find out myself, but it makes sense that they would be more expensive, but they're also really good quality. Now, stripping these down, working on the gearbox, I wish I'd filmed that actually. I didn't film it at the time. I wish I had. They are really nice to work on. A lot of people get other companies to work on them for them, and that's fair enough. If you're competent with working on your replicas though, these are more than you're more than capable of doing these. They're not super complex, difficult things to work on. They're actually very nicely made, and the tolerances are tight, so when you put them back together, they just fall back together really easily. I find this very easy to work on. There's way more component parts on it than a normal AEG, and it comes apart in a different way. The version 2 gearbox in these is completely different to any kind that you'll see in any other AEG because of the blowback and the way they've set it up, the way the gears work. Everything's different, but it's just well put together and it works. The gears in these, they're very lightweight. They're not heavy duty gears. So some of your Chinese guns that you get, like again the Cyma AK, you get these thick steel gears. The gears in the Toyko Maruis are very lightweight. The gearbox shells are very high quality, I feel, and the operation is really nice as well, the way they're put together. But the component parts such as the gears, they are pretty lightweight, and they are completely proprietary. So, you know, that's one of those things. There's nothing wrong with them though. The piston is all polymer. Again, something that you sort of look at and you think, oh, it's a bit low range, but again, it's well built, it's decent quality. It's not the end of the world, you know. It's one of those things you look at and think, at some point, I may upgrade that. The barrel in these, the internal barrel, is actually quite high quality. I think, I was measuring it, it's around 6.08 millimeters. So it's not quite tight bore, it's not wide bore, it's just, you know, it's a decent barrel though, it's well made. And the finish in it is good as well. I looked inside very often with some of the cheaper brands. You'll clean the barrel and it'll be full of green gunk. This one was absolutely clean as a whistle, really nice. And that says a lot about the finishing and the quality control. Now I have put a tight bore in here because I've been doing some experimenting with it. So I've put a couple of barrels in here actually. I've tried the TNT tight bore. It's a 602 with the TNT hot rubber and nub, and it worked pretty well. I had to cut the nub down slightly to fit in the hot window, but it was working well. It was putting the BBs out there at a decent range and a decent accuracy. But I decided to try something really blingy, so I put an edgy barrel in there, a 6.01 stainless steel barrel. They're not the cheapest things in the world by any means, and I R-hopped it. So I thought, you know what, everyone keeps going about R-hops in Toyko Maruis, let's try it. In fairness, it's really good. So the R-hop, it's slinging the BBs a long way. I'm probably getting a good, probably 60 to 65 meters roughly, and I can't complain at that. And that's a pretty usable as well. You're not going to necessarily be getting pinpoint headshots like you're in Call of Duty, but you're going to be getting decent body shots at that distance, and it was pretty impressive, to be fair. It works well with the R-hop, but that's using .32s as well. So what's the FPS at? Right, what I did was made sure I had a good air seal. So I put an M90 spring in it. I put a Prometheus nozzle on it to make sure I was getting a decent air seal. And I've put the, obviously the edgy 601 barrel and the R-hop. Oh, and I've used a G&G green hot rubber to get a good seal. And I'm getting a consistent 340 to 342 FPS out of it with the M90 spring. Absolutely perfect. That's exactly where I want it. I've not changed the gears. I've not done anything to the trigger switch. Nothing else is completely standard. Now, obviously, if you go crazy, you change the motor, you put the gate tighten, you put hardened motor, you know, hardened gears in there, different piston head, nozzle, different cylinder head. You can go absolutely bonkers with these, in the same way as you can with any other AEG, in fairness. But I think the net results you get with these when you upgrade them is just taking on a little bit further than you are with the standard AGs. And I'm not saying that as a Toyko Marui fanboy or anything else, I'm just saying that on experience of messing with these things. I've got my Spectrum Arms H20, which I absolutely slated when it came out, because and rightly so, because it was bad. But I've done a huge upgrade job on that. I've done loads to it, and it is absolutely pinpoint accurate, and it shoots at a long distance. That AG would be hard pushed to beat in a straight out fight. However, I've got other AGs of exactly the same build with similar upgrades that just don't have quite the same performance, and it's hard to tie down exactly where that's coming from or where we're losing performance in them. Whereas these, they tend to be pretty consistent whatever you do. Soon as you're doing, as long as you do the job properly, you make a decent job, you can pretty much know what you're going to get from them, because they're consistent. And that's down to tighter tolerances, nicer build quality. So for all the people who hate Toyko Marui, and there are a lot of people out there that absolutely despise Toyko Maruis because they're expensive, they're overpriced, they're underpowered, all the rest of it, you know, that's just the way it is. People talk about the Toyko Marui pixie dust and how they have this magic quality to them that makes them so good. A lot of that comes down to the hop unit. The hop unit's brilliant because what it does, it's a plastic hop unit, you know, it's nothing fancy in that sense, but what it does, it clips the barrel in nice and tight, it doesn't wobble around for a start, and the actual pressure on the nub is pointed directly down. It's not like cantilevered or anything like that. It pushes directly down. It has got a lever above it, but it's a separate slider. So it just sits on top and it pushes directly down the pressure onto the hop. And that means you get a nice consistent hop on there. I reckon if somebody made a Toyko Marui style metal hop with metal parts, a little bit I suppose they have in the way they've made the Max. The Max hop unit works in a similar way. And I think you could get some really good results with it. But no, so far so good. It works really, really well. So magazines, right? Yeah, magazines are proprietary. You can use normal M4 magazines if you buy an adapter, but then you lose the bolt stop facility. Now, if you don't use a bolt stop facility on this, what's the point of having one? That's what it's all about. So you're going to have to buy some mags. Now you get one mag, obviously the Stanag style mag with it, which will go in the next room, and you go and buy the EPM mags. Now, I prefer these anyway, but you've got to remember with these is they're not cheap. They're about £25 a piece I paid for them. So they're not the cheapest things in the world, but once you've got them, and if you buy a Toyko Marui M4, whatever else, then you're going to have the mags already. But these give you the bolt stop facility. These mid caps, I think they're 120 rounds, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, they work great. No wobbling, no flopping around, good solid fit, no problem at all. So downsides. Other than the occasional semi-auto lock, I know it's only happened once to me, but I know other people have had problems with semi-auto lock constantly when they're spamming the trigger usually. That's an issue if you spam the trigger. You have to make sure you get that full trigger pull when you fire it. You don't want, you know, if you're doing all this rubbish, then it's going to lock up in about 20 seconds and you're going to have to constantly be clearing it. You have to take very positive shots when you fire it. If you're going to start all this rubbish, then you're going to have problems with it. Simple as that. The only way to get around that is to fit a Mosfet. The next one, the stock. Now, this stock's actually not too bad. People who complain about them creaking and stuff like that, I put some tape around it just to stop a little creak on the top, but to be honest, I didn't really need it. I only put it on because it looks quite funky. The one weakness with this is the actual stop catch. So what you have is this button here. You press to swing it round. That broke nearly instantly. And it wasn't heavy-handedness either. I was just pressing it, it was quite stiff, opened it up and it split down the back here. Now what I've done, this is actually, I think it's Prometheus replacement. So the original is plastic, this one is actually made of steel. So next up is what's it like to use? Well, this is no lightweight, I'll be honest. That scope doesn't help, it's not a light scope. But this isn't a light rifle either, it is pretty weighty. In fact, it weighs a ton. I think it's heavier than my SRS. It is a pretty chunky gun, this is. There's no getting away from it, but it feels solid. There's no rattles, no wobbles. it's absolutely rock solid. I love that. That's great. But by the end of the day, if you use it all day, you're going to know about it. Your biceps and your back and your shoulders are going to be aching a little bit. But you know what? I can sacrifice that for the fact that it feels good and it's well made. So what's next for it? Well, in all honesty, I'm quite happy to run it as it is, but I think I may drop the tightening there just to make sure we get rid of that semi-auto lock potential, because that gives it a full cycle of the gearbox, and that's pretty important. So I think that's probably the next good upgrade for this. The air seal's good on it. There's nothing wrong with the gearbox, it's all operational. So yeah, I think that's the next step. So can you buy one of these and do very fine upgrades to it and still get good results? Yeah, absolutely. This thing's a beast. It's an absolute monster. I'm getting good, solid, long shots out of it. You know, what else do you want? I'm happy to use it as it is. The only thing I'm avoiding are those semi-auto locks. So if you think about it, if that's the case, then really there's not much more to do to it. If I want to go down the route of speeding up the actual trigger response and everything else, then I can stick a motor in there, I stick to different gears. Obviously, if you need to take this step at a time, but you need to think, if you're sticking a powerful motor in, you need to change gears really. The spring, yeah, you can get away with the gears as they are, but honestly, I would probably, if I change the motor, I'd change gears, but if you change gears, I'd probably change the piston as well. So then you start going down the route of it getting quite expensive. The gears for these are expensive. So if you buy something like Seth Prometheus gears, they're about £100 odd, they're not cheap. Add that to the gate tighten, which is another 120, say, then the price is starting to creep up. You stick a £100 barrel in there, again, this isn't going to be a cheap operation if you're upgrading one of these. It is an expensive operation, but the end result's really good, I feel. Is it worth it? Only you can decide on that. Only you can say whether it's worth your time and money to put into one of these, because at the end of the day, it's your money. You decide on what the worth of it is. But you've got to take it a little bit at a time. If you're going to do the whole lot in one go, if you've never touched one before, probably best get somebody else to do it, unless you're really decent at teching. But they're not as bad as people make out as far as working on them, but it does help if you've got a little bit of experience with AEGs, because there are some things that are different with these. But I certainly think the barrel setup and the hop setup, that's the key to the Toyko Marui. The blowback, that's an added extra, and the gearbox, yeah, it's a funny thing. It's not very standard by any means, but it's well put together and it's solid. So no problem at all. So through all of this, I realise you guys haven't seen it actually fire. I keep nearly knocking that off. Get back. I realise you guys haven't seen this thing actually fire, so I'll stick a battery in and I'll show you what it's like. I think it's not exactly something new. There's loads of videos on these on YouTube. I am using one of my trusty old 7.4 1600 milliamp batteries, which just happens, if you take it out a notch, just happens to fit in perfectly. It's actually a really good fit. You just got to cram the wires in then. So mags out, because the bolt stop doesn't actually operate if the mag's out. So if we give it a shot. Then obviously if we put the mag back in, and we've got a bolt stop. Press it again and again. Cool. Okay guys, so if you consider all I've done with this is stick a O-ring nozzle in it for a better air seal, done a bit of a rebuild, re-grease, stuck a tight ball barrel with an R-hop and a green G&G hop rubber in there, flat hopped obviously, and oh yeah, incidentally I did reuse the TNT hop as well for the R-hop, should I say. So yeah, let's give it a try. I'll show you exactly what FPS you get with those, and obviously the M90 spring, yeah, don't forget that. So here we go. 349, 345, 345, 343, 345, 341, 345, 343, 348, 343, and 345. So yeah, there's a couple of jumping around. 343, 342, 344, 346, 345, don't know what that was. 344, 345, 342, 346, 344, 342, 344, 342, 342, 340, 338. So drop down a bit. I think that one did a bit of a spin round in the back there, but yeah, pretty consistent. I'm happy with that. The odd ones jumping up and down, but certainly nothing to be offended by. So, are Toyko Maruis worth the money? Are they expensive? Yes, they are expensive. Are they worth it? For me, yes, I think they are. Other people don't agree with that, and that's absolutely fine. Because at the end of the day, it depends on what you want from your airsoft. If you want something that's cheap and cheerful out of the box and will do the job on the day, then there are other guns that you should consider opposed to this. If you want the maximum performance you can get out of it with the best potential performance you can get out of it, yes, you can spend money and get a much cheaper AEG to perform in a similar way to a Toyko Marui. But what you won't get is the bolt lock and the blowback necessarily. So there are little bits that you compromise with, and you won't necessarily get the build quality of the Toyko Marui. These, I can't stress enough, these are things are built like tanks. They really are. The barrel doesn't move an inch because it's got whacking great bits of metal in there holding it in. They're bolted, they're threaded nicely. There's no loose bits, rattly bits or anything like that. You've got to remember, these are built well. They're not just rattly old replicas that fall apart. There's bits of metal in here holding everything tight, holding it solid, bits slide in with perfect precision, and that's the difference with these. It's the small details, and if you're an engineer, if you're into engineering or anything like that, you'll appreciate the build quality, because you'll see where the time has gone into little bits being individually machined and designed. You can see these things floating around on a CAD file somewhere. You really can, that they're just being made. Somebody's taken a lot of time to design them and to machine them to real tight tolerances that you just don't get with a lot of airsoft replicas. I mean, recently I did the SRS, that's in the same league, that's the same kind of thing. Somebody's machined the tolerances so tight on them that sometimes they're they're a little bit more tight than some of the upgrades you put in them, because the upgrades aren't quite as good a quality as far as the machine is concerned. And I really appreciate that. There are drawbacks, like with anything, it is compromised sometimes. And these are compromises with the quality of some of the internals. As standard, they work absolutely fine. When you upgrade, then you start to look and say, well, maybe I need to upgrade them a little bit more. And that's what happens. And it happens with 90% of AEGs as you start to upgrade them, particularly the cheap ones. Can you do airsoft cheaper than this? 100% yes. If you've been playing for years and years and years and you fancy something a little bit different, this is the one. Or Toyko Marui as a brand are probably a good choice. If you're just coming into the game and you want the best possible gun you can get and you don't mind spending a bit of money, then this is a great platform to start with. And if you choose some of the many upgrade options you can get from the dealers that sell these, then again you can have something pretty epic. So yeah, these things sell like hotcakes, which tells you a lot. A lot of Toyko Marui stuff is out of stock. Yes, there are limited numbers coming into the country because you're relying on people buying up stock from the dealers. But at the end of the day, they sell fast, and there's a good reason for that, and that's because people like them. So for all the Toyko Marui haters out there, and there are many, somebody was made a real nasty comment on one of my videos the other day about Toyko Marui and British people. Yeah, whatever. I think YouTube removed it because it was slightly racial, but there you go. Yeah, Toyko Marui is great. That's why people buy them, and that's why they sell out fast. So guys, if you guys want to see the insides of this thing, then let me know in the comments, because I'm more than happy to strip this down, take it apart, let you see the inside of the gearbox when I'm doing anything to it. If I fit a gate, I can film that and show you what's inside, so you can see the quality of the internals. I should have filmed it actually when I actually took it apart, but for some reason I can't actually remember why I didn't now, but there was a reason at the time. But if you want to see the internals of this, then you're more than welcome. For anyone who's going to ask me, because I know you're out there and I know somebody's going to ask, this is a Spectre scope, but it's a replica of a Spectre scope that I got off AliExpress. So if you want to see one of those, go on there and have a look for it. And the same for the Surefire light. It isn't actually a Surefire, it's another replica off AliExpress. So, and it works pretty well actually, it's pretty bright. So if you want those, by all means go on there and have a look. This thing's awesome, absolutely love it. We've got a little micro red dot on the top, and we've got RMR I think, and then we've got 1x or 4x scope underneath. It's actually really cool. So yeah, I like it, but be aware it weighs a bloody ton. So guys, that's another video done. I'm waiting at the moment for the new ASG B&T Universal Service Weapon to arrive. I pre-ordered it last month and I'm just waiting for it to come in the post at the moment. I'm not sure whether they've sent it out or not. I'm not absolutely sure when they're released, but I am waiting for it. So that was the Toyko Marui Scar L. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you again soon.